Hello all. Hope you all are doing well and good. And in today's video, we are going to discuss about the basic features of our Indian Constitution. We're going to talk about the features that make our Constitution unique in itself. So without any further ado, let's dive into the topic and start. Let us first discuss about the task of the framing the Constitution. So we must know that a country like ours that is sovereign and democratic, the constitution of such a country is framed by a representative body of people, and that body is usually elected by people for the purpose of considering and adopting a constitution. This body को usually constituent assembly कहा जाता है. Now the man who first put in or who first kept the idea of framing the constitution was no other than the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who proposed this idea in year 1922. uh, you know and that is how we came to a belief that we can also form our own constitution. And after that, the rest is history. We created our own very constitution that we follow till today. And we must know that it took us around 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to draft our constitution. Now this draft was prepared by the drafting committee, and it was submitted to the president of the assembly, that was the first law minister of India, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, on 21st of February 1948. Uske baad there were a big number of comments, criticisms and suggestions. They were all welcomed, and then the draft constitution was amended, and that is how we came on to our own constitution. And this is how our constitution came into making. So without any delay, let us come on to the next topic, and the very first topic for today, that is the size of our constitution. So we must know that our constitution is the lengthiest constitution that has been ever given to any nation. किसी भी नेशन के पास इतना बड़ा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नहीं है जितना बड़ा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमारा है. Original draft of our constitution had like 395 articles. वहीं पर जो आज का हमारा constitution है उसमें we have 448 articles which are divided into 25 parts and 12 schedules. So in physical terms, we are the lengthiest constitution, and most importantly, we are a very comprehensive document, and we include many matters which could legitimately be the subject matters of ordinary legislation or administrative action. तो जो हमारा मेजर सोर्स है हमारे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का, जो सबसे बड़ा सोर्स है, दैट इज़ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935. उसी के ऊपर हमने हमारा जो मेजर सोर्स है वो वही है. And the constitution makers were also very certain of one thing, that they did not want to leave any matter subject to doubts, difficulties and controversies to be handled by the future legislation. ठीक है. एंड हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में सिर्फ स्टेट्स नहीं है. ठीक है. जैसे जैसे यूएस है ना, यूएस है ना, यूएस हैज़ अ फेडरल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन और हर स्टेट का अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है. बट इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं है. दैट इज़ नॉट द केस विद इंडिया. द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया नॉट ओनली इंक्लूडेड द यूनियन बट ऑल्सो द स्टेट. And that is why the size of our constitution is very huge, and we have also kept in mind the complexities, the diversities and of India. And उस टाइम पर हमारी सिचुएशन बहुत अलग थी. People were very much divided on so many bases. That is why not नॉट ओनली दिस, हमारा जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है उसमें एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव चार्टर है ऑफ जस्टिसेबल फंडामेंटल राइट्स, बट उसमें बहुत सारी फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ भी हैं. उसमें क्या कहते हैं, डीपीएसपी भी है. एंड that is why our constitution has given a considerate importance also to all of these factors that are fundamental duties and dpsp. And now let us come on to the next topic, that is, which system is adopted in India? Do we have the system of parliamentary sovereignty, or we have the system of judicial supremacy? Now, before knowing what kind of system do we have, we must first understand what do they both mean. So basically, parliamentary sovereignty means that there are no limitations on the power of the parliament, and the parliament is considered to be supreme and sovereign, right? Whereas in the system of judicial supremacy, we mean that judiciary has the utmost power, or the law making body of a country has the utmost power. So in British parliamentary system, parliament was supposed to be supreme and sovereign, but there were no limitations on the power of the parliament in Britain, because जुडिशरी के पास तो पावर थी ही नहीं ना. पार वहाँ पर क्या कहते हैं, ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम में जुडिशरी हैज़ नो पावर ऑफ जुडिशियल रिव्यू, and the power of judicial review is known for its system of check and balance in any government. Whereas in our country, the constitution has arrived to a middle course, that both parliament and both judiciary and parliament have their own powers, have their own importance in their own respective space. But before talking about that, let us first talk a bit about US system. The British parliamentary system का we discussed that parliament was supposed to be supreme and sovereign, and there are no limitations on the power of the parliament. Whereas in the US system, or in the US, the Supreme Court has the power of judicial review, with interpreting the constitution has assumed the supremacy of the कोर्ट. तो बेसिकली इन यूएस कोर्ट के पास पावर है of interpreting the constitution also. Court can interpret the constitution also, so that makes the court supreme. Whereas हमारी country India में we have arrived to a middle course, and that is a compromise between the British sovereignty of the parliament and American judicial system. Now we are neither so sovereign like the Britain, and we are neither so judiciary oriented like the American system. We are somewhere governed by the rule of law as well as judicial review. So these are two basic key features of the system in which through which we govern in our country. That these two words are rule of law. Rule of देखा जाए तो क्या कहते हैं, courts can determine the constitutionality of the law. But if we see judicial review, they can also determine the procedural part of any administrative action. But since we have a written constitution, जो powers है और जो functions है हर organ की वो defined है, and their limitations are also given by the constitution, so there is no question कि कोई क्या क्या कहते हैं ऑर्गन दूसरे ऑर्गन की पावर को इंक्रोच कर सकता है. दस बोथ पार्लियामेंट एंड सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैव देयर ओन पावर्स एंड आर सुप्रीम इन देयर ओन स्पेस. सुप्रीम कोर्ट किसी सुप्रीम कोर्ट कैन डिक्लेयर अ लॉ पास्ड बाय parliament as being violative to the constitution, whereas parliament may with certain restrictions amend most of the parts of the constitution. Amend कर सकता है, but you have to know that it is with the restriction. And with this we have covered the most important topic, and that was what kind of system do we follow. तो इससे हमें पता चला that we are somewhere in the middle course, right? And now let us come on to the second topic, that is the universal adult franchisee. तो देखो, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ने in our Constituent Assembly said that by parliamentary democracy, we as a country mean one man, one vote. And the founding fathers of our constitution decided and opted for the system of universal adult suffrage. That was that every adult Indian, without any discrimination on the basis of gender, education, was and caste, creed, etc., was given the opportunity and given the right to grant their vote. And that was very, very remarkable as a decision, as we were very illiterate and we were a poverty ridden country back then. And even then also we decided to have the universal suffrage. So we gave the voting rights to everybody irrespective of their gender. Even in the West, the right to vote was very gradually increased. पहले सिर्फ क्या कहते हैं रिच पीपल ऑफ द सेक्शंस वर सपोज टू वोट, देन एजुकेटेड लोगों को क्या कहते हैं वोटिंग राइट्स मिले, एंड देन आफ्टर अ वेरी लॉन्ग 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 स्ट्रगल women were gradually granted the right to vote. So this is one of the key features of our constitution. And now let us discuss about a very important topic, that is the Charter of Fundamental Rights. So in front of you all I have written these six points, and these articles come under the fundamental rights of our country. So we'll discuss about fundamental rights in detail later, but now let us come on to what fundamental rights are and what do they grant. So one of the most fundamental demands of the leader of our national struggle was independence for what people need in the most basic needs, and those were human rights of freedom, equality. वही हमारे फंडामेंटल राइट्स बात करते हैं, हमारी फंडामेंटल राइट्स हमारी इक्वालिटी, हमारी फ्रीडम की बात करते हैं. दीज फंडामेंटल राइट्स वर these fundamental rights just keep or just they lay the foundation or laid the foundation back then of a formal declaration of certain justiciable fundamental rights. ठीक है, हमारे जो फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं वो पार्ट 3 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में है, एंड दे आर इनवायलेबल राइट्स ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल. ठीक है, एंड एनी लॉ और एग्जीक्यूटिव एक्शन विच डिप्राइव्स एन इंडिविजुअल सिटीजन ऑफ हिज फ्रीडम, ठीक है, held unconstitutional and invalid unless it is covered by any restrictions. तो हमारा जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है वो कहता है कि कोई भी एग्जीक्यूटिव एक्शन किसी भी इंसान के फंडामेंटल राइट से उसको डिप्राइव नहीं कर सकता है अनलेस एंड अनटिल वो कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रिस्ट्रिक्शन है. तो हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने हैज़ लेड डाउन अ मशीनरी एंड मैकेनिज्म फॉर द इन्फोर्समेंट ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स. अब यूएस में फंडामेंटल राइट्स जो थे वो एब्सोल्यूट टर्म्स में थे, बट देयर कैन बी नो एब्सोल्यूट इंडिविजुअल राइट्स. व्हाई देयर कैन बी नो एब्सोल्यूट इंडिविजुअल राइट्स? क्योंकि अगर आपका कोई राइट एब्सोल्यूट हो जाएगा तो इट माइट इंक्रोच द राइट ऑफ अदर पीपल ऑल्सो, because for each individual rights are limited, or at least for the sake of rights of other individuals also. And this was the brief of the fundamental rights. And now let us come on to the second topic, that is DPSP. DPSP, its full form is known as the Directive Principle of the State Policy. So DPSP was added to meet the main objectives and goal of a country. ठीक है, DPSP का मेन एम होता है कंट्री के एम्स और ऑब्जेक्टिव्स और गोल्स को पूरी एक एक्सपैंड करना, लोगों के लिए एक्सेसिबल बनाना. तो इन आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन द सोर्स ऑफ कंसेप्ट ऑफ DPSP, the source जो है जो DPSP की is the Spanish Constitution, from which it came into Irish Constitution, और Irish Constitution से इंस्पायर होके हमने DPSP को अपने Constitution में लाया. Now it emerged from the Article 45 of the Irish Constitution, and we have provisions of DPSP in Part 4 of our Constitution. Article 36 से Article 51 DPSP की बात करता है, और Article 37 जो है हमारे Constitution का, it states about the application of DPSP. Now, the aim and objective of DPSP is to ensure socio-economic justice. You have to keep this word in mind, that the aim of DPSP is to ensure socio-economic justice of people and to promote the welfare of the state. They contain all the ideals. DPSP talks about the ideals which एक स्टेट को फॉलो करने चाहिए and a state should keep in mind while formulating in policies and enacting laws. DPSP talks about directions where fundamental rights, they talks about prohibitions. It is very important. अब देखो DPSP जो है वो बात करता है what should be the direction, whereas fundamental rights, they talk about prohibitions. So it is very important. यहीं पे बहुत important हो जाता है हमारा ये जानना कि DPSP है तो fundamental rights है, ठीक है, और fundamental rights हैं तो DPSP है. अब हमारी जो कंट्री है उसकी DPSP 3 कैटेगरीज में डिवाइडेड है ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इट्स आइडियोलॉजी और ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, एंड देयर सोशलिस्ट प्रिंसिपल्स, गांधीयन प्रिंसिपल्स, एंड लिबरल एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रिंसिपल्स. विल डिस्कस अबाउट दिस मोर इन डिटेल लेटर, बट अभी हम इतनी बात करते हैं. तो आर्टिकल 38, 39, 41, 42, 43, 47 ये सब सोशलिस्ट प्रिंसिपल के डीपीएसपी हो जाते हैं। आर्टिकल 40, आर्टिकल 43, 43B, 46, 47 और 48 गांधीयन प्रिंसिपल के डीपीएसपी हो जाते हैं। वेयर एज आर्टिकल 44, 45, 48, 48A, 49, 50, 51 ये लिबरल और इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रिंसिपल्स के डीपीएसपी हो जाते हैं। डीपीएसपी ने रिसेंट ईयर्स में काफ़ी ग्रेटर इम्पोर्टेंस ली है, और लेजिस्लेचर्स के लिए नहीं बट कोर्ट की आंखों में भी, कोर्ट की नज़र में भी डीपीएसपी ने एक इम्पोर्टेंस गेन की है। देखो, जैसे यूएस में डुअल सिटीजनशिप है, वही इंडिया में सिंगल सिटीजनशिप है, बिकॉज द फाउंडिंग फादर्स ऑफ आवर नेशन वांटेड to keep India integrated, and it's integrated, and it united. They wanted to keep it a united nation. और क्या कहते हैं, कोई भी सेपरेट सिटीजनशिप नहीं है हमारे यहाँ यूनियन और स्टेट्स में. ऑल सिटीजन्स आर entitled for the same rights all over the country. If you're a citizen of India, you can be the citizen of any state you want to. And कुछ सालों पहले there were some special provisions in case of Jammu and Kashmir and other tribal areas, but फिर नेशनल सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट आने के बाद आप इंडिया में फ्री टू रिसाइड है in any part of the country wherever you want to, for the purpose of trade, settlement, you are free to move. और अब कोई separate citizenship नहीं है. And now with that, let us discuss the other topic for today, that is the fundamental duties. तो हमारी रूल बुक के 51A के पार्ट 4 में हमने क्या कहते हैं, फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ की बात करी है. और फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ बहुत ही इंटीग्रल पार्ट है हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का. दे आर इंश्राइंड इन आर्टिकल 51A, जहाँ पर हमने जिक्र किया है फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ का. फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ जो हैं, दे वर बॉट इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इन 42nd अमेंडमेंट Act of 1976, and they lay down certain duties of citizens, and it is one of the most valuable part of the constitution, lekin it is also very neglected. So we must know what our what our duties as a citizen to our country is, and to our country are, and every duty to the community is somewhere linked to our development. हर वो ड्यूटी जो हमारी है एज अ सिटीज़न, वो हमारी ही डेवलपमेंट के लिए बनाई गई है. एंड इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू डिस्कस व्हाट आर ड्यूटीज़ एज अ सिटीज़न. दे कवर, जैसे डीपीएसपी स्टेट की ड्यूटीज़ की बात करता है टुवर्ड्स अ सिटीज़न, फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ सिटीजन्स की बात करते हैं टुवर्ड्स देयर, सिटीजन्स की ड्यूटीज़ के बारे में बात करते हैं टुवर्ड्स देयर कंट्री. ठीक है. फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़ जो है आर्टिकल 51A में आती हैं. एंड सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो है बहुत सारे केसेस में इट रिलाइड ऑन टू फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज़, एंड they are given a great purpose. They are very important in order to achieve the level as a country where we want to reach. And this Charter of Duties is sought to emphasize the economic, social and moral responsibilities of all citizens towards their country. Our fundamental duties are basically 11, and पहली duty है to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions such as national flag and the national anthem. Second duty is to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Third is to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Fourth is to defend the country and render national services when we are called upon to do so. Fifth is to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices which are derogatory to the dignity of women. The sixth fundamental duty is to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. इसके बारे में बहुत डिस्कस हम डिटेल में भी करेंगे. सेवेंथ हमारी फंडामेंटल ड्यूटी है टू प्रोटेक्ट एंड इम्प्रूव द नेचुरल एनवायरनमेंट सच एज फॉरेस्ट, लेक्स, रिवर, वाइल्ड लाइफ. इन सबको प्रोटेक्ट करना हमारी ही ड्यूटी है. एट्थ फंडामेंटल ड्यूटी इज़ टू डेवलप द साइंटिफिक टेम्पर, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. Whereas the eighth duty that has been enshrined is to, safeguard public property and to abjure violence. Tenth duty is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. And the 11th fundamental duty is that every parent or guardian should provide opportunities for education to his child or ward between the age of 6 to 14 years. तो these are all the fundamental duties. इनके बारे में हम और भी डिटेल में बात करेंगे. And for now the video has become quite long, so we'll discuss the later part of this video in the next part. Until then, keep watching, stay tuned, and I hope आज जो भी topics हमने discuss किए हों, they're well understood to you and everything is clear to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Goodbye.